Retro sounds today. Here we go. Are rim shots necessary if you're learning to play beats and fills on the drums? We've all probably seen the famous clips of Steve Gadd playing beats in the center of the snare without hitting the rim. We know and love the classic lo-fi detune sound from the 70s and beyond.
I'm just a jealous guy.
We associate rim shots with, louder music. Like metal or alternative rock. Or the Chili Peppers. Leading many to ask, if I'm not trying to play loud music on the drums, why do I need them? And indeed, the idea that you need to be digging in like you're playing Wembley Stadium or Coachella, when you're doing acoustic coffee shop gigs or background music at a wedding reception is silly. But what if we have the wrong idea about rim shots? I grew up and got almost through college without realizing that the backbeats on many of my favorite recordings, from Nirvana to Vinnie Colaiuta with Sting, were rim shots. And the more exposure I've had to good music, the more I've learned that rim shots don't have to be loud or raucous. The low volume rim shot is one of the more tasty tools in the drummer's toolkit. But is it equally true that with modern amplified music, and fusion giants changing drumming in ways I discuss in this video, we're losing track of all the equally musical use cases for head strokes? Well, today, we'll talk about it. I'm Nate. People call me the 80/20 drummer, and it wasn't until I was years out of college that I started using rim shots in earnest. And I'll share my favorite ways to think about them, as well as some exercises to get you going. Today on the channel, are rim shots necessary to make you a good drummer? Stay tuned. And folks, because one of the themes of today's video is that not all instruction is created equal, that's why I'm excited to be partnering with a platform that helps drummers develop their own unique voices, rather than be one size fits all. The folks over at JP Bouvet Method. And for the next 7 days after the published date of this video, when you grab a 7-day trial at the link below and use the coupon code on your screen, you can save $100 off your first year of an annual subscription, or 50% off the first 6 months of a monthly. JP doesn't just show you exercises. He teaches you how to cultivate your own improvisational ideas. So you can play original ideas that sound like you wrote them down, but you came up with them in the moment. Don't miss your opportunity to save. Click below to get started. Now, on with the lesson. Let's start with what's a good rim shot. And to do that, let's play a beat and see how rim shots change it. In fact, Chapter 1, How to Play a Rim Shot. Here's a basic beat with head strokes. And here it is with rim shots. To do a good rim shot on paper is pretty basic. The shoulder of the stick hits the rim at the same time as the tip hits the head. But it turns out there are two things that make this more complicated. The first is the position of the stick beat on the head. Depending on where you play on the head, the tone of the drum changes. The second is not getting injured, because one way to ensure consistent rim shots is to white knuckle it. Death grip the stick, try to play with a lot of force, inhibit the rebound, all things that will likely lead to injury long term. So we need a way to hit at the same angle, with the beat in the same spot on the head, consistently. All without creating tension. So here's a sequence I like to practice. Start with 2 soft strokes and 1 loud, in sequence. If you want to think of it like a triplet, great. As you do this, make sure that your stick tip stays more or less in the center of the drum, and that your accented strokes are not completely choked, but also limited rebound. As part of this, make sure your wrist is a consistent height above the drum, and that you reset that distance after every accented stroke. A lot to think about, but this will all help the next step. Next step. For the loud strokes, without changing any of the mechanics, lower your playing position ever so slightly until you start to hit the rim at the same time as the center of the drum. Let's stop for a second. A common issue when drummers learn rim shots for the first time is they tighten up. Grip the stick way tighter and try to muscle things. While a slightly tighter grip may be necessary sometimes, it's not much tighter. If you feel any tension creeping in, just go back to the regular accented strokes. The soft strokes are also helping you measure distance. By finding the drum just before the rim shot, you're consistently reteaching your body where it is, so you're more likely to be accurate. So that's lesson 1. Now we'll talk about practicing rim shots and beats, but first, chapter 2. Rim shots may be more common than you think. A certain percentage of drummers might not even know that a lot of their favorite drummers on their favorite recordings use or used rim shots. And I'm not throwing shade. I didn't know. I came all the way up through high school playing in bands, playing head strokes on the snare. It wasn't until I was playing on the cruise ships out of college that I started using rim shots regularly. And it wasn't until the 20-teens that I was any good with them. So if you're anything like I was, you might be surprised to learn how common rim shots are in our favorite recordings. And if you're not, just enjoy this recap of some great drummers and great recordings. So, Chad Smith. Obvious, right? But let's go back to some classics. Let's go back to some meters. Sissy Strut. Ziggy. Classic rim shot sound. Hendrix. Hey Joe.
Hey Joe, I said, where you going with that gun in your hand?
Rimshots. Thin Lizzy, Boys Are Back in Town. Some music I loved growing up. Police, Roxanne. Talking Heads, Life During Wartime. Snare tuned a little low, so hard to tell. But luckily, the Stop Making Sense movie had tons of great drum shots. 10-1 rim shots. The song I hilariously didn't realize was rim shots until embarrassingly late in life, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Vinnie Colaiuta with Sting, rim shots on most backbeats. Oh, one of the drummers we'll reference later in our No You Don't Always Need Rim Shots section, Ringo. In this early live clip, 10-1 rim shots. Okay, so we don't need to belabor this, but this is just to say, think of any amplified situation, past or present, with the backbeat. And chances are the drummer is playing a rim shot. Why? You get both a louder sound and a tighter sound for essentially the same effort. In the early days of rock, a lot of music was played in public, and amplification made all the guitars, basses, keys, and vocals louder, and you wanted something that would cut through. Which brings us to lesson 2, as opposed to chapter 2, I know it's confusing. How to use rim shots in a groove. In keeping with my don't skip the basics thing I'm learning from doing a lot of teaching of adults lately, there are 2 primary problems to solve to get consistent rim shots in a groove. And by consistent, I mean you can just lay in the pocket like Steve Jordan does here, and every rim shot is the same sound and right on time. Not like a robot, but consistent like a solid human, like Steve. For drummers new to rim shots, this is harder than it looks, as I said, for 2 reasons. The first is in a groove context, we're very often swinging from high up. Remember the first drill we did, soft, soft, loud? And how I like that as a place to start because we can measure distance with the soft strokes? If you're playing a standard rock groove, you're often not doing those softs, so you need to aim from higher. There's a whole thing I teach with incorporating the fingers, so if you're using both fingers and wrists, you get more efficient power, which I won't go into here, but check the video on the card here. But suffice it to say, you're hitting from higher up. The second challenge is a question I get all the time, which is, for a non-open-handed player playing a beat on the hats, which is to say the hands crossed over, how do you simultaneously get the stick height to get a nice backbeat and also avoid the hi-hat hand? So this drill will fix both. I call it clean hands. On the page it looks super basic, until you remember all the things you need to keep in mind at once while doing it. We're going to play quarter notes on the hats with the lead hand, and 1 and 3 on the snare with rim shots. And watch what I do with the hand before 1 and 3. I lift both hands at the same time. Indeed, if you watch footage of good drummers, you'll see a lot of them doing this. That's the primary answer to how you avoid the dreaded wrist clash while crossed over. But it's easier said than done. A CK, this drill. I'd progress from this to this inverted rock beat, with the snare on 1 and the bass drum on 3, and hats on all 4 beats. For some reason, I like this version better for practice than the standard rock beat. Maybe because by leading with the snare, we're focusing on it front and center. And maybe because it's like one of those figure drawing exercises where you turn the photo you're tracing upside down, so you're not biased by your preconceptions, man. Now that we've dealt with the getting the hat hand out of the way thing, let's deal with the other challenge, hitting these from high up. If you want to start with head strokes just to practice staying relaxed, great. Then inch the hand position down ever so slightly until you're catching the rim with the same relaxed stroke. You can always add a snap later, but you don't want to be locked into that. Focus on making all the rim shots the same volume, with the bead in the center of the head while maintaining that relaxed stroke. Finally, focus on playing the hats and snare together without flamming, and kicking hats too, so we can play the rim shots loudly in a beat. But what about all those times we may not want to? Chapter 3. What about not rim shots? Remember Ringo from before?
Don't let me down. Take it, Billy.
Astute viewers will know Ringo also had plenty of recordings without rim shots, just in the center of the snare with head strokes. And head strokes are a vibe. I think of songs like Vultures by John Mayer. Or anything where you want a more legato sound. Just as rim shots cut through, sometimes you want to be more subtle, to stay ensconced in the sound of the band. And I don't want to gloss over something else. Rimshots became popular in sonic environments where the drummer wasn't well mic'd and needed to cut above the din of the rest of the band. But as recording technology progressed, you could hear the drums in more detail and you didn't need to slam in all situations. Part of the reason Ringo was able to use some sonic possibility on the kit was that the Beatles pioneered a lot of more advanced recording techniques. When you can hear the drums and it's a more nuanced sonic environment, you want other textures besides just slamming. So maybe you don't need rim shots to be a good drummer? It depends a lot on the music you're doing. And depending on your genre, your niche, your bands, you can go through a lot of career without ever needing rim shots. And there are so many other ways to create interest in a song. Which hats or cymbals you play, muffling, dry textures, toms, rim clicks, changing the actual beat, dynamics. I think it's fair to say rim shots are not essential in many genres of music. But what if we want to start incorporating them into our improvisation? Lesson 3. Using rim shots in improvisation and fills. You could make entire courses on this, and I have. But in very brief, in any situation in which you could use accents while improvising, you can use rim shots, including on the toms, though it's less common. But let's take 2 pretty basic things we do to start improvising. The first is paradiddles. We know them, we love them, but what if we added rim shots? Well, here we have the advantage of having a soft stroke in close proximity to the rim shot. But we're also changing hands and playing something more complex. So if you're new to this, just take it slow. But focus on getting good stick height with the accents, relaxation with the stroke, consistent subdivision, the same distance between all the notes, and keeping the sticks in the center of the drum. You can also place some of the accents on the toms. Next, we'll do 2 very common idioms incorporating the kick drum. If you've followed this channel for any amount of time, you've seen these, but the first is right, left kick. You can use it all around the kit, but today we'll focus on doing it on the snare to get good rim shots. Like the beat, you're starting higher, so stay relaxed and calibrate your wrist height until you get it dialed. Then try to duplicate that stroke. You can orchestrate to toms, but when you play the snare accent, make it a rim shot. Finally, let's use right, left kick to practice accents on the other hand. Same drill as before to get familiar, but then you can alternate them. and alternate them with paradiddles to make some basic fills. But do we have to do this? Let's get to another chapter number. Chapter 4. So what do we mean by good anyway? When I posted this question on my Instagram last week, I deliberately used broad language. Good drummer. Not functional for loud situations or prog rock drummer. Good drummer. And of course that calls into question our definition of good. Like, we're arbitrarily creating a basket of skills we think somebody needs to have to be good, and there will always be some things that fall into that and some things that fall outside of it. Example, double kick. Do we need to play double kick to be a good drummer? Or brushes. Do we need to play brushes to be a good drummer? It's always going to be arbitrary, and even more so now, when instead of journeyman gigs where you could go on the road and cut your teeth, a lot of the drumming is individual and entrepreneurial. For instance, people writing their own music and making their own songs. It's almost more useful asking if people can be good at a narrow category and still not good at some things outside of it. And the answer is, of course. You can be good at drumming without being good at double kick, or brushes, or singing and playing the drums. But if we change the question a little to, are rimshots worth the effort to learn because of the range of musical possibilities they open up, it's still a subjective that's going to depend on whom you ask. But in my opinion, they're one of the most useful skills, even if you don't want to play loud music. Example, I always trot this out, Brian Blade, with Nora Jones or Joni Mitchell. Not playing super loudly, just using the rimshots as a texture to differentiate one section of the song from another. And as far as tools go, I think rimshots are higher leverage than crazy chops, even though I love crazy chops. And probably than knowing jazz for the everyday drummer, even though I love jazz. And I think once you learn them, you'll see a lot of possibilities for where to include them.
And that's how you get the gig!
So, did this video change your attitude about rimshots? Why or not? Leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this and want to go deeper, I hope you'll grab your free transcription at the link below the player. And if you want to go way deeper on this material with one of the best collections of drum courses online, I recommend you click the link below and check out our sponsors at JP Bouvet Method, and use the coupon codes on your screen to save for the next 7 days. Dudes at Spin will always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another Lesson of the Week.